The college football season is coming to an end, and instead of a tradition-rich rivalry to close out the year, we get Oklahoma vs. Texas Tech. Here's a quick breakdown of each team's current status, keys to victory, and final prediction for the game. Let's start with Oklahoma. The first 15 minutes of Bedlam had me on cloud 9. I fell off shortly after. Let's start with the offense. The first quarter went about as good as you could ask for. The offense was firing on all cylinders, putting up 28 points, and the only blemishes were a quick 3-and-out and a rare fumble by Braden Willis. A key to the game that the announcers were harping on was having Dillon Gabriel come out and actually win a game for the Sooners. And he was doing it. He was playing a near perfect game. He was fired up. I was fired up. Sooner Nation as a whole was thinking, okay, where was this Dillon Gabriel all Big 12 play? Once the first quarter ended, however, it was back to reality. Gabriel looked completely out of sorts, basically regressing to the mean after a stellar start, including a streak of 11 straight incompletions at one point in the fourth quarter, which is pretty interesting considering the way Lebby got him going was through easy completions to start the game. Speaking of Lebby, what on earth were we doing on offense through the final 3 quarters? It was like the whole group was lost. Quickly checking the numbers, 1 of 14 on third down. Yes, 1 of 14. Speaking of quick, it was impressive how quickly the offense was able to get off the field. OSU had the ball for 15 more minutes than the Sooners. That number stands out because generally you would think that a team leading 28-0 at the end of the first quarter would try to start bleeding the clock out a bit here. But that wasn't the case until near the end of the fourth quarter where the announcers and everyone at home had been begging them to do so. Jalil Farouk had one of his most disappointing games of the year, dropped a few passes that he should have hauled in. While Eric Gray didn't have an otherworldly day, he did have 90 yards and a score, and it was nice to see Javonte Barnes have some good moments. The future at that position is bright. I'll sum up the offensive performance with this. Buckle up. First quarter, 28 points. Possessions after the first quarter. 4 plays punt. 5 plays punt. 3 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 plays punt. Kneel to end the game. Michael Turk wins player of the game with 11 punts, and he is the big winner as well. He proposed after the game, so congrats to him and Grace Lyons. Once Turk punted it over to the Oklahoma State offense, the OU defense did surprisingly well. The first quarter went about as good as you could have asked for. The defense was dominant, shutting out the pokes and forcing 2 turnovers. The only difference was, unlike the offense, the defense played pretty well throughout the game. It wasn't without a couple of speed bumps here or there, but I will give the defense a bit of a pass on some of those since they were on the field the majority of the game. This defense is slowly beginning to figure out how to run this Brent Venables scheme effectively. Was part of it due to an injured Spencer Sanders trotting out there and putting forth one of his worst career performances? Probably so, but I'd like to think that the defense played a big part of that. Sanders threw 4 interceptions, but it could have easily been 8 if it hadn't been for some defensive drops. But the key is players were in the right position at the right time to make the play. While tackling wasn't perfect, it was much improved from what we have sometimes seen through Big 12 play. Danny Stutzman continues to confuse me with his decision making at times, but he always ends up near the top of the box scoring tackles. The defensive line did a great job of making Spencer Sanders uncomfortable, sacking him 6 times, 2 by Jordan Kelly. The 4 interceptions were by 4 different players, including big man Jonah Laulu, who almost took it to the house. At the end of the day, I'm comfortable saying, all things considered, this was arguably the best defensive performance we've seen out of the unit this year. Hopefully the group continues to build within the scheme, because when they are on their A game, they're a nasty group to deal with. While the bowl game streak is officially still alive, the streak of winning seasons remains up in the air, and the Sooners will need to play well in order to leave Lubbock with a guaranteed winning record. Joey McGuire's first stint as a collegiate head coach hasn't been for the faint of heart, including a proverbial turnstile at the quarterback position. Despite this, the Red Raiders have found a way to get the ball moving on offense. To give you an idea of the quarterback situation, 3 different quarterbacks have thrown over 60 passes this year. Assorted injuries have caused this scramble at the position, but as a group, the trio have combined for over 3,200 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. Despite the jumble at quarterback, Tech is actually at the top of the Big 12 in passing yards per game, which, if you've watched any Texas Tech football over the past 20 years or so, shouldn't be much of a surprise. On the ground, the Red Raiders returned their 2 leading rushers from last season, Taj Brooks and SaRodorick Thompson, who are both on pace to eclipse their prior season statistically and provide balance in the backfield. Miles Price and Xavier White, two of the top 5 receivers from last season, both lead the team in receptions. White is having a breakout senior year, along with redshirt freshman Jaron Bradley, who could be a big problem for the Oklahoma defense at 6'5". Expect the team leader in receiving touchdowns to have another big game. As a whole, the offense ranks second in the Big 12 in total yards per game, or at least they did before the Iowa State game, and they put up an impressive 32 points per game. While the defense might not be highly ranked, the group won't just roll over. The Red Raiders had 7 returning starters on defense, but unfortunately the team hasn't seen a whole lot of improvement on that side of the ball. While as a unit they do allow fewer yards per game than they did last year, they still give up about 28 points per game, which usually makes for a difficult season. The team certainly has a veteran presence on defense. The top 6 tacklers on the team are all seniors. Rashawn Merriweather provides leadership in the middle of the linebacking core, ranking 3rd in the Big 12 in total tackles, while Tyree Wilson leads the team with an impressive 7.5 sacks on the year, ranking 2nd in the conference. Despite giving up over 400 total yards against Iowa State, the defense clamped down when they needed to, stopping the Cyclones twice on 4th down, both in drives of 9 or more plays. Both Oklahoma and Texas Tech's defenses will be coming off one of their more impressive games of the season, which should make it interesting facing off against traditional high-flying offenses. Keys to victory. When Dylan Gabriel is on, he can be one of the better quarterbacks in the country, but when you put him in difficult situations, generally bad things happen. If the Red Raiders defense puts an emphasis on confusing Gabriel with different looks and forcing him to make quick, tough decisions, it could be a good night in Lubbock for the home team. Tech struggled to move the ball against Iowa State and had many drives stall out in 3 to 5 plays. In order to beat Oklahoma, the offense will likely have to light up the scoreboard, and they will need to turn the page from last week to give the team that opportunity. What's the common theme in all 5 of Tech's losses? They also lost a turnover battle in each of those games. Winning the turnover battle won't guarantee victory, but it will be a huge step in winning the war. Offensively, the Sooners as a group will need to turn the page on whatever the hell those last 3 quarters were. Start with a clean slate, because if that's the look the team brings to Lubbock, then 500 for the year is a lock. Last week, Eric Gray didn't eclipse the 100-yard mark. I don't like this. Neither do NFL scouts. Get the ball in his hands, let him do his thing, and help him increase the size of his future NFL check, while putting the Sooners in the best position to win. The defense has played this game where it feels like they're improving one game and then the next thing you know they've regressed completely. Sometimes this cycle happens multiple times within a single game. Even if it is small and incremental, if the defense builds off of their performance last week and takes that into Lubbock, then I expect the Sooners to finish Big 12 play on a high note. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of night games in Lubbock. Weird things happen. You can't see the tortillas coming at you. It generally doesn't make for a good time for opponents. That being said, usually a late season trip to Lubbock means a lot more is on the line for the Sooners. This year, not so much. In the battle of 6 and 5 teams, I'm taking the Sooners to win it off the back of a surprisingly good defensive performance, 27-16. Big 12 play might be coming to an end, but the questions aren't. The Big 12 is expanding. Check out my video here on how to realign the conference. And as always, have a great day and see y'all at the next one.